I believe we are live. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've been having some Facebook issues all morning, and I've been kind of dealing with that. So it's been a little bit hectic. So I'll explain the issues here in a moment. I just got to do a couple of checks here. If somebody could give me a sound check, that would be great. Let me know that you can hear me okay. Also, let me know if you can see me okay. That's probably something I should also be asking for because I can't even do a video check directly on Facebook because let's see if that works. I'm not going to be able to scan the comments. Oh, well, this is going to be an interesting live today. All right, I can see some comments. What's happening, Carolyn? Carolyn House Evans, I am here tonight. Fantastic, Carolyn. And then we got Bernadette. Hi, Bernadette. Looks like Bernadette is on YouTube, so that's working. And then Carolyn is on Facebook, so that's working as well, which is good to know. I'm actually directly on my StreamYard. I use StreamYard to live stream these videos to Facebook and YouTube, and I'm on the StreamYard dashboard at the moment because I can't see anything straight off of Facebook. So basically what is happening with Facebook for me, and I don't think it's universally an issue. It's happening kind of regional from what I saw when I was researching online. Basically, when you try to log into Facebook using a browser like Chrome, like Firefox, et cetera, you cannot get on. You can only get on through the app. So I was able to set everything up through the app. Luckily, set things up through StreamYard so that I could go live through the app, but I can't go live to the event page, which is a bummer. I can't go directly into I'm sure most of you probably saw the event page where you go and find out what all the details are to the event, or you click on that you're going to be attending or you can't attend, etc. So that's the event page. Normally, when I do one of these events, I stream it directly there. It's a nice little location for everybody to come in and look at updates and things of that nature. So anyway, I can't go live to the event page, unfortunately. So it is going live directly to the Painting with Jesse page, which is a good alternative. But later on, I'll take the link and add it to the event page. So if you see anybody that's lost, if you see anybody looking around for the event, just direct them over to the Painting with Jesse page here on Facebook and on YouTube, and you should be able to see me okay. All right. Drinking a little bit of, I've got some blueberries and strawberries inside of a sparkling water Spindrift strawberry lemonade drink. I never had it before. So, but anyway, cheers to all of you that are going to be joining me today. Just looking at the comments, I can see comments on StreamYard. Luckily, I didn't think I was going to be able to see them. What's happening, Tina? How are you? From Alabama, huh? It's been hot in Alabama. It's hot. It's getting pretty warm over here in California too. Today's a hot one. What's happening, Angie? So she says, so do we change to Facebook? No, Angie, you're fine. If you're wherever you're watching this from, if you're able to see it and hear me and everything else, you're good to go. What's happening, Robin? All right. Who else is on here with me? Debbie Dooley, how are you? Anne Marie, how are you? All right, everybody. So we're going to get moving here pretty quickly. I've got a quick confession to make. If you notice, there's a little bit of a difference between this background and the whole painting. It's slightly different than what I had on the canvas at the end of our session yesterday. For those of you that may have missed part one, that is available for you. It was recorded. It's available both on the YouTube page, and it's also available on the main Painting with Jesse page at the top. You'll see a live tab. Click on that, and you'll see yesterday's video. Anyway, at the end of the session, I had pretty much what I've got here. Earlier today, I came in to practice before we did the live, and of course, I started noticing that I was having all those Facebook issues, and so in between trying to see if I can get that rectified, I'm going through my practice just to make sure it's kind of a warm-up, right? When I do these lives, it's a good idea for me to practice. Otherwise, sometimes things happen during it. I'm going, oh my gosh, I forgot about that, right? Some color mix or something that I did on the original that I've forgotten about when I'm doing the live step by step. So I'm going through and I'm practicing, right? And I realize almost when I'm completely done that I was practicing on the piece that I finished on yesterday. So, right, what I had at the end of yesterday looked kind of like this. Well, I meant to practice on a piece that I practiced on the day before. And so I realized too late that I was practicing on the actual piece from yesterday. And so this is what I have. This is from the piece that I did yesterday. This is when I was kind of starting to do, when I was about to start doing the birds, I'm like, oh no, I used the sample piece from yesterday, the painting that I had from yesterday. So anyway, no big deal. It's just I wanted to point that out in case you saw a little bit of a difference between the two. There is a slight difference. So it's a little bit more of a tealish color here because I actually used a slightly different colored paint for this. But anyway, that's that. So what's happening, Adrienne Ivanov, Sabo. Adrienne, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, unless it's Adrienne. Anyway, everyone, before I forget, it's been a little bit of a nutty morning, so before I forget, let me go ahead and do that. Change the view on that really quickly so it's easier for you guys that are going to be painting along to see what I'm doing. Okay. Really quickly, I'm going to go over my supplies, same as yesterday pretty much. I'm going to be using a styrofoam plate as my palette. Today, we're going to start painting the sand, okay, the beach itself. We're going to start painting that here in just a little bit. For that, I'm going to be using, it's burnt sienna, basically it's a brown, whatever brown you've got. I'm going to be mixing it with some white. And then at some point, I will also add a little bit of yellow. Okay, so first we're going to start with brown and some white. I'm going to go ahead and put that on my palette. Okay, so give me a sec as I do that, and then I'm going to talk about my brushes. So I did mention yesterday at the end of the session that before you get started, anytime you progress on a painting and then you stop and leave it alone for a bit, which I do recommend you do often, you can step away after an hour or 2 hours. When you come back and look at your piece, your eyes are you're looking at your piece again with fresh eyes. Your vision kind of adjusts. After painting for so long, sometimes you develop a little bit of a tunnel vision. So when you come back, you look at it again and you go, okay, it's often easier to spot any things that maybe aren't correct. So before you start today, you want to take a step back and look at your piece from a distance. Okay, look at it and just kind of make sure that everything looks good, looks, it's where you want it to be before you progress to the next step. For me, when I look at this piece, everything looks pretty good. Okay, I'm good to go to the next step. But if I wasn't, let's say there's something that's off, maybe I needed more clouds, maybe my water wasn't quite right, I would fix that first and then go to the next step. Okay, but here's my mixture on the plate. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of yellow to this also, right to the side of my white. And then brushes. What brushes am I going to use? There's my yellow. Okay, what brushes am I using? Same brushes as yesterday. Let me grab a paper towel here. So same brushes as yesterday, but I'm going to start. So for those of you that maybe weren't here for yesterday's session, and you're just kind of hanging out, watching, seeing what's happening, or trying to figure out, whether you want to paint along with this or not. Here's my 1-inch flat brush. Now I won't be using this today. At least I don't think it's going to be coming in handy today. But I use this big 1-inch brush to paint in my background. And of course, I'm painting on an 8 by 10 inch canvas. But today, the brushes that I am going to be using, this 1/2-inch flat brush. Okay, I've got a number 4 flat shader. That's a number 4 flat. When I say shader, I'm used to saying that whenever I describe that to my membership group. So number 4 flat. Okay, and then a number 2 flat. Little tiny rectangular brush that I'm going to be using to create the trunks of the trees and then also the foliage. Okay, I'll also be using this to create my little birds. Okay, so you'll see how that happens. And then other little details. Okay, so this one's going to be getting lots of use today. Today, of course, is the second part of our workshop. We're going to be finishing up with the workshop today. We're going to be, everything that's missing from the original is going to be added on today. We're going to be painting for a while. We might even be painting for anywhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours, because we're going to take our time with this to make sure all of you, especially you beginners, are able to understand everything that's going on. Make sure that if you have any questions about anything, that you please put it in the comments. Do not be shy. There's no such thing as a dumb question or a wrong question. Put it in the comments. If I don't answer you because I missed the question, somebody else in the group that's been painting with me for a little bit will answer for me, hopefully. That means you, my members of my art group, if you guys see a question that you know the answer to, please answer it. Also, any of you that are paint along with the Painting with Jesse page that happen to know the answer, you can answer a question in the comments if you see one, okay? Let's see. I think that's about it. Paper towels. Oh, paint colors. What paint colors am I going to be using today? Before I talk about that, let me take a little drink. Cheers to all of you that are going to be joining in today. That's actually a little tart, but pretty good. My colors, I've already talked about the brown, the white, and the yellow. Other colors that I'm going to be using, green. Okay, we're going to be mixing a little bit of green with some white, some green and some yellow for the palm trees. I'm also going to be using black. Okay, a little bit of black. We got a little bit of black shading in the palm trees. I used a bit of black for the birds. And then I've got some pink and some red that I'm going to be using for the little tiny flowers that you see in my little foliage there at the bottom. Okay, so again, just a quick recap. And I didn't bring white over here. Here we go, white. So I did bring white. So white, blue if we do any touches to the water. Okay, I got some blue. Again, green, black, yellow, brown, pink, and red. Hi, Crystal. Hi, Mary. Welcome back. Hey, Alice. What's going on? All right. So that's pretty much it. Enough talk. Let's get into this. So I mentioned I'm starting with my it's a medium-sized brush, 1/2-inch flat brush. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white. I'll bring it over to I'm going to need more white for sure. But I'm going to bring some of that over to the kind of center of my plate. I'm going to grab a little bit of the brown. And again, just for reference, I'm using burnt sienna for my brown. It's a really kind of a reddish brown. And I said we're going to wait to add some yellow for a little step further on in the session, but I'm going to go ahead and add it now. So brown, yellow, white. I'm going to add a bit more white to this, so bear with me as I bring that over from my little tube. Again, everyone, very beginner-friendly class. If you've never painted before or if you're really new to painting, don't be shy. Join us. Yesterday's session was recorded. Today's session is being recorded. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do the live in the main Painting with Jesse event page that I created for this, or in my membership group, as I did yesterday because of the Facebook issues, but here we are. Okay, just a little bit harder to find perhaps. All right, there's my mixture. I just kind of did a mixture that isn't completely blended. I can see a little bit more yellow in parts. I see a little bit more white in parts, and I see a little bit more brown in parts. I'm going to use my brush, and I'm just going to start back and forth here along the bottom. Okay, I'm going to hug. I'm going to turn my music up a little bit. I've got some Facebook sound, what do they call it? Their sound selection. It's not a very amazing selection, but better, I think, than not having music. I'm going to try and keep it nice and low. Now, I didn't mix too much. I didn't mix any water for this first step when I'm adding my paint in here, but it will help depending on how thick the type of paint that you're using. You can take your brush, dip it in your water. Of course, we got a water cup. This is where the brushes are going to sit after I use them. Every time I use a brush, it goes into my water cup. With acrylic paint, that's very important. Otherwise, the paint will dry on your brushes, and it could ruin them permanently. So in between steps, you want to take your brushes and put them into your water cup. But again, what I was saying is if you need a little bit of water in your mixture, dip your brush into your water cup and then just kind of mix that into your painting. So here is my first step. Okay, for that sand. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take maybe a little bit more white. Okay, I just scooped up more white right here and I kind of bring it like this. Find a little area towards the bottom here where I can make a lighter version of that paint. And I'm going to go and just start bringing in some highlights. And I'm mixing it right into the paint, that first layer of paint that isn't quite dry yet, right? It's drying fairly quickly. It's nice and warm in my garage. So it's going to dry pretty fast, but we're not worried about that. If yours is already dried or if it's in the drying stages, no worries, just add a bit of this highlight color right on top of everything. Not on top of everything, parts of it, just kind of be selective. Pick your spots. Again, I just put out some more white, mixed it in to create a lighter version of that sand color that we used for the base. And I'm just going to come in here and watch how I'm using my brush. It's nothing too specific or precise, just running that brush, especially here through this kind of center area. It's going to be a little bit lighter. It's going to get a little darker towards the edges. I can also maybe grab a smidge of the yellow and throw it in, just for variation. If you joined me yesterday, I talked about how when you're layering, variation of color can create depth. Okay, not every painting or every part of the painting needs it. It just depends on what you're doing. So you just be a little bit, just understand that that's going to help your paintings a bit. Okay, next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of this burnt sienna, this brown, and I'm going to go just making a darker version now, right? That's the original plot of paint that I put together. Just grab a little area over here, I darken it a bit, and then I can kind of start. Watch my brush. Look how I'm using my brush here. Nothing fancy. Okay, maybe over here. This is a really light touch. I'm dabbing a little bit. I'm pulling a little bit. Okay. What I would like to do is just create a nice little serene, peaceful, not too detailed beach. That's the goal. If my music is too loud, please let me know. Morning, Kinkini. Sounds good, Tina. No worries. Angie, let's see. Mid-yellow. Use that mid-yellow. Okay, let's see. So again, just picking a few little spots to create. Not a very super detailed little beach, little shore. Later on, when we add our little shrubs at the bottom, our foliage there on the floor, we can add more detail to the surrounding sand, okay? Again, everybody, welcome to part 2. If you missed part 1, that was yesterday, and the video is waiting for you. Right on the Painting with Jesse page, go to the top, click on the live tab. You'll see the video sitting right there. Again, that was part 1. Yesterday's session where we painted in the sky, the water, and some clouds. Also, if you go over to the event page, the actual Painting with Jesse event page, you'll see the first video there. Now, what I'm going to do when this is all over, I'm going to try to take the link for this video, for today's video, and put it into the event page. for those of you that are going to go back to the event page. All right. All right. What's happening, Sherry? And then again, folks, please don't be shy. Let me know where you're joining in from. Put in your state. Of course, I'm in California. Okay, I'm out in California. For those of you who may not know, it is 3:22 p.m. right now. But if you're joining me from another state, if you're joining me from wherever you're joining me from, let me know in the comments. And if you're painting with somebody, say, hey, my name's so-and-so, and I'm painting with my daughter so-and-so, or with my son or my kids, my mom, et cetera, et cetera. It's always kind of fun to see where everybody's joining from. Okay, next step. We're actually going to start creating the palm trees, okay, the actual trunks. Now, what I want you guys to do, especially if you're newer to painting, is my suggestion is that you use a flat brush, kind of like this one. The reason why I can use a flat brush like this to create that trunk is because the bristles come together really nicely, forming a really skinny line, okay? Hi, Evan. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Yvonne or Evan? Cherry from Kentucky. Hope you're having some fun today. Okay, what I can do with this is I use the narrow part of that brush to create a nice skinny line, okay? Some people like to use the little pointy brushes, the little round brushes. Whoops, and I moved all my brushes away from here so they wouldn't distract me. Sometimes I reach over and start grabbing brushes that I didn't put down in the list. But the little pointy brushes, the little skinny little pointy brushes, sometimes people think that those are the best tools to use for making skinny lines. And they can be, absolutely. They work just fine. But those typically require a little more stability in your brush stroke because it's a little single line of bristles. You have to stabilize your hand a little bit more. Your hand has to be a little bit more stable. Okay. The advantage to using a brush like this is that all those bristles lined up together help stabilize your brush stroke. So maybe some of you hadn't thought about that, but these are excellent. And so this is my number 4 flat shader. That's what I'm going to start my palm tree trunks with. I'm going to take some of this burnt sienna. I'm going to bring it right over here. Now I am going to add some water. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to dip it right into my water cup. Okay, just on the bristles. Don't need too much, but the water is going to help me create that skinny line because it helps make that paint stick to the canvas a lot easier. So a little bit of water, just brought over a couple of drops. You know what, Deb? I'm not sure how that works. Yeah, I'm not sure how the stars things work exactly. I think when you purchase them, I think they go right to the person. I'm not so sure though. Thank you for at least trying though. I wish I knew better. The stars thing is kind of new to me, even though I've used them for a while. I don't pay that much attention to that. So, I don't pay attention to how the process works. I should though. I know I should. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right up here, somewhere up at the top. I know this palm tree is going to end up over here somewhere. Actually, I can even kind of mark that off. And we want to start really skinny, okay? Don't make them as broad as you think they're going to be to begin with. Start nice and skinny. So what we'll do is I can work my way down. I'll start up here about where I think the top of that palm tree is going to be. Okay, again, nice and skinny. Once you start with your line, I held my breath for a moment to stabilize breathing when you're making those long, skinny lines. Even breathing can kind of destabilize your hand a bit. So you can hold your breath through it and it can help. So, okay, there's my first palm tree. Now I don't want to go quite as high as I think it's going to be, like at the top here. I come up a little bit lower. I can always adjust that. If I go too high to begin with, that can be a little bit harder to fix. Okay, now, so all I'm doing is going back in here, grabbing more paint, and I'm going to try to straighten it out a little bit. Not straighten it out, smooth it out. So here we go. Okay, I'm also using my finger. All of this is dry, so I can use my finger to put it right onto the canvas, and that stabilizes my hand a little bit more. So here we go again. I'm also going to add a little bit more thickness now. I'm just taking the brush, see if I can try to let you guys be able to better see what I'm doing. I'm going slightly outside the original line and making it a little bit thicker. It's a little hard to try to demonstrate it and do it at the same time, but I'm going to try it again. So I'm going a little bit thicker, a little bit at a time, until I get it to about where I want. Okay, so something like that. Now that's all that I'm going to do for that palm tree for now. I'm going to let this dry as I work on the other one. I will come back to it and add some more details later. Here I'm going to go just a little bit higher to make this a little bit skinnier. I want the top of the palm tree to get a little bit more narrow than the rest of the palm tree. So I'm going to come up a little bit higher and make this part just a little bit skinnier. Okay, just a touch. Now I'm probably a little too high up. Oh, this will still work. We're still in business. Okay. And I move over to my next palm tree. In this case, I'm going to pull this palm tree. The next one, I'm going to move it over a little further than the original, just a little bit to give me more room for the palm tree heads, right? For the foliage on top. So I feel like I brought these a little too close together, so I had to overlap a bit. And for those of you that are beginners, that can pose a little bit of a problem that I don't want you to deal with, or I want to try to avoid you dealing with. So right over here, I'm going to come over to about there. And I know this one's going to end up being kind of close to the other one, so I might as well just create that base so that I know where I'm headed. Okay? So here we go. I'm going to just grab a little bit more paint, more of my burnt sienna, and bring it over. Again, folks, don't worry about, you don't have to be super specific about your colors, but if you have burnt sienna, you can use that. Or if you have burnt umber, that's also a good choice. A regular brown, any brown that you've got should do the trick. Okay, this one's going to have a little bit of a bend, a little more of a bend than the original. Okay, again, nice and skinny. I'm just using that skinny part of the brush, and again, I realize that I'm blocking the camera a bit. Try to do this again. Okay, there we go. Once you commit and you start, you want to move through your brush stroke to create your line. Okay, the slower you go, the more your hand's likely to shake. And so sometimes I can create a little bit of a jagged, jagged line, or jagged brush stroke. Now these palm trees that I'm making right now are a little bit thicker, they're not quite as smooth as the originals. That's because trying to demonstrate, I have to kind of move over to the side so it doesn't give me as much stability or control as I had when I made the original. But that's okay, it still works. They don't have to be super skinny for this painting to work. Okay, so there we go. And then again, I want the top to be a little bit narrower than the bottom. That's already pretty much there. So we are in business. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little time to kind of work through that. Again, everyone, if you have any questions or any comments, etc., please put them down in the comments. And then also, please do not forget to like the video. Give me some thumbs up, some hearts. The more interaction that there is with the video, the more that Facebook will share it with others that don't necessarily follow the Painting with Jesse page. And that helps the page to grow. And that is, something that I would love to be able to do, grow the page a little bit more. But all right. Anne Marie is in Ontario, Canada, 6:23 p.m. All right. And Angie says, humid northwest Indiana. Tornadoes and floods tonight, and some tomorrow, and rain all weekend. Ooh, sounds like probably want to stay inside. Sounds good, Sherry. Fantastic. Okay, so don't stress too much if your trunks aren't perfect at the moment or close to where you're not worried about perfect. Don't worry about perfect. Very rarely is any painting perfect. Paintings are amazing and beautiful when they have some imperfections. Okay, so don't stress about having some perfect painting at the moment, or about getting every single part of it perfect right now. You can come back and add some adjustments to it later. Hi, Linda. Okay, so now what's next? Well, we're about to tackle probably the most difficult part of the painting. We're going to work on the palm fronds, okay, the foliage at the top of these palm trees. Now, I know from experience, from having been teaching palm trees for a while, that palm trees can be really tricky. The style of palm tree that I'm going to show you is not an easy one in a general sense, right? But if you follow the steps, if you try to mimic me, you're going to be just fine. What we're going to start with, and I'm going to be using this number 2 flat brush. Okay, again, what's important is that it gets nice and skinny here. When I bring these bristles together, they create a nice thin line. Okay, we're going to mix some green and some yellow for this step. We want kind of an in-between color. And what I mean by in-between is that when you look at the palm trees, the original ones that I made for this session, you've got some shadowed areas, Okay, these are created with some of the burnt sienna mixed in with the green to create a really dark green and some black. Okay, and then you've got areas where you got dark green, just mostly dark green, and then you got areas that are a little bit of a light green and then some yellow. So there are various colors in this. Okay, and we're going to create those one step at a time. But we start with the base, and the base that I'm going to create is about an in-between color, kind of the middle ground color for what we've got on the palm tree. Okay, so got some green here. Deep green is fine, Angie. Deep green she'll work just fine. A fan brush can work, Anne Marie. It just depends on how you're going to use it for your palm fronds, right? You can make a palm tree with a fan brush. Absolutely, you just have to. It just takes it's a different technique. So if you've got a little experience, with that, then absolutely, a fan brush will absolutely work. Okay, so again, I'm mixing. So I've got this dark green. This is a dark green, and the color, my actual green is, whoa, my brain just did a little glitch. Hooker's green. Okay, I got a little Hooker's green here, and it's basically a dark green. Okay, the official name is Hooker's Green Hue Permanent, but it's basically a dark green. So I'm taking some primary yellow, mixing it in to lighten it up. Again, what I'm looking for is a color that's kind of in the middle of what I've got in here. Not too light, not too dark. And when I say kind of in the middle, that's what I mean. It's kind of in the middle. It doesn't have to be right in the middle. Your color does not have to match mine exactly, but you want something that's kind of in between everything. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create these long little lines. It's going to look a little bit like I'm making spider legs. Okay, here's another one. I'm going to bring this light over here a little bit closer to make sure that I've got enough light on the piece so you have a good view of what's going on over here. I feel like it might be a little dark. Okay, hopefully that helps a bit. Okay. All right, next. So from there, oh, and a little touch of water if you need it. So just dip your brush into that water. Just a little tiny bit of water is all we need for this. Mix it in, and let's continue. Okay. Okay, we got 4th of July fireworks. At least that's kind of what it looks like. Hi, Bernadette from Atlanta. What's happening out there in Atlanta? Okay, now what I'm going to do using the same color, this is very important, very skinny. I'm going to start creating these little lines that come down like this, slightly curved. Some are a little thicker than others. Overlap a little bit. Okay, once you've got that, we can go to the next ones. I can go in either direction. I'm going to go over here. Okay, you want to keep them nice and skinny. Okay, next one. I'm using the skinny part of my brush. Now we're going to overlap these later with other shades, other hues. Okay, now if you notice on this one, I only came down and I did the same thing here. On this one here, I came down and then I came over the top a little bit. So on that part of the palm tree, you can see the foliage on the other side. Okay, a little bit. Adds a little bit more realism to the piece. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, I got 7 on mine. You can have 6, you can have 5, whatever works for you. Awesome, Kinkini. Good to hear. You drinking coffee, Kinkini? Okay, again, the trick is to keep these lines nice and skinny. Kinkini's all the way out in Australia, hanging out today with us today. Okay, and again, just to show you, I went on both sides of that line. Okay, I went on this side and then on the other side. Take your time, everyone. Don't need to go at my pace. If you're watching for now, that's perfectly fine. If you are going for it, you don't have to try to be a speed demon. Take your time with it. If you're struggling a little bit, that is perfectly normal. And if you're not struggling, fantastic. Just like with every other part of this painting, except for maybe the sky, this entails layering your paint. Okay, layering. So we're going to come back and do some layering on top of this in a bit. First, we're going to go and work on our other palm tree. Real similar, same thing, same color. We're not changing anything at the moment. Okay, same color that we just used. We're going to go ahead and create the spider legs. And in this case, I'm going to go right about here. If you have to overlap a little bit, that's perfectly fine. I was trying to avoid that as much as I could. So I tried to keep them slightly apart. Or further apart than on the original. I think I succeeded by a tiny bit. I don't want to change it up too much. Otherwise, the composition changes quite a bit. It won't be the same painting. Okay, again, take a look. Nothing fancy there. Just some curved lines that look like spider legs. That's it. Oftentimes beginners or people that are newer to painting get caught up, or art in general, get caught up with too many of the details early on. You take it one step at a time. You break each step down, bit by bit. So one step at a time. You just focus on the one step, and then you go to the next step, right? So here we got our spider legs in place. Now I can come in here and start adding the little lines. So here we go. We're adding those. Similar process as with the other palm tree. Just going through here, and you don't have to leave too many gaps, the same space gaps everywhere. You can, some areas are going to be a little more densely, your lines are going to have more density, or not density, but they're going to be more packed together. Other parts are going to have some gaps, right? It's a palm tree. You don't have perfectly uniform palm trees in nature. You might have some nice uniform parts of some palm trees, but nature has a lot of randomness in it because of the wind, because maybe it wasn't watered enough one year, or perhaps the sun damaged it on one part, right? There's all sorts of different reasons. Animals climbed the tree and ate some of the foliage. There's all sorts of different reasons. So now I'm moving through this part of the palm tree a little bit faster. Maybe over here you can see a little bit on the other side of this one here. There's a little close-up. Okay. And then here we go. Last one here. And on this one, I'm going to do it on both sides. Again, it just depends on your perspective, how you're viewing this, or how you want the people that are watching, they're going to be looking at your painting to view it. Now, already with just the one color, it's already looking like a palm tree. Let's see if I get a little more light in here. That's not going to do much. Sorry, Jesse. It just feels like it's a little dark in here. Maybe it's just my vision. I don't know. But anyway, so there's our start. Okay, what I'm going to do next, I could go and add highlights first, or I can go in and add some lowlights first. Doesn't really matter which way we go. I'm going to start with some lowlights in about a minute, okay, after I give you guys a little bit to catch up. Remember, as you're going through this, you want to take a step back. Again, I'm trying not to hit my tripod. One of the legs is sitting right next to me. If I hit it, the camera's going to go flying. So take a little step back. Look at your work from a distance. Look at your handiwork. Take a step, and look at it from a bit of a distance so that you can get a better view as to what's going on. I'm trying to get more light in here. Give me a sec. See if this works. There we go. That's a little bit better, I think. All right. A little better. That was bugging me. Oh. And right before I started knocking over some of my paintings. I just realized I got a big old gap over here. Anyways, you guys are catching up. Let me fix this really quickly. There we go. That's better. That's what you guys could probably see that anyway. Anyhow, so we're going to go ahead and continue with some of the dark lights. Let's see. Angie says, I don't like to rotate the canvas. I think is what you're saying, or you like rotating the canvas. Yep, that does help. If it helps you to rotate the canvas, either on your easel, or if you're using one of those little round disc, like a little, almost like a lazy Susan, you could put a canvas on top of that and turn it. That does help too, if you're painting on canvas. Of course, many of you may not be. So what I'm going to do next is this. I'm going to grab some green here. I'm going to bring that over to the side here a little bit. I'm going to make it a bit darker by mixing in my brown. Okay, again, I've got burnt sienna in here, but when you mix your brown, as long as it's a dark brown, mix it in with your green, it's going to create a very dark green. It's going to look almost black, okay? And that's kind of what we're looking for. What this is going to do is we're going to start creating some of these darker parts of the palm tree. Now, these are not the darkest parts, because we are going to take a moment in a bit and mix in some black in here to make some of the parts a little bit darker. But for example, this part of the palm tree, we're going to go and just kind of do that. We're going to come through here, and now I'm overlapping, and I'm letting some of the green first layer come through in some areas, and then other areas I paint right over some of the original lines. The first green lines that I put down, I paint over some of them, and in some parts I allow some of them to kind of peek through. Okay. Again, we're layering, we're creating. Oh, perfect, Sherry, that works too. An angled flat brush is a really nice brush to use for skinny lines, trees. I have a video on different types of brushes and how to use them here in the Painting with Jesse page. For some of you, maybe I did that like more like 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. But that video's in here still for those of you that are interested. Maybe I'll post it on the main page. I'll link it. But that's a really good video where we talk about angled brushes, we talk about fan brushes, flats, and then I demonstrate how to use them in that video. It's a pretty long video, something like 2 hours. Lots of really good details in there. All right, let's continue. Remember to add water to your paint if you need it. If you're struggling to get that paint to stick to your canvas, that means you need a little bit of water in there. Still using that same color, that same really dark green color. Maybe here I've got some that I can see peeking out on the other side, right? And then over here, I'm gonna right in this one, I'm only gonna add a little bit here at the base. For now. Okay. So I'll link it, Sherry. I'll link it both in Finding Your Brushstroke, and then I'll link it to the Painting with Jesse page also. So, but yeah, it's a pretty long video. You can watch it in segments, right? You can just kind of go through and watch it in little segments. I may even edit it to take out some of the extra talking, the stuff that isn't related. I talk a lot in that video. I think I remember, we're just having a lot of fun when I made it. I did it as a live. All right, so just coming through, I'll give you a close-up here. Okay, just pointing some things out, right? Again, I'm not covering every single part of my palm tree with this new color. I'm being selective. I'm creating a shadow. This is the shadowed parts of the palm tree. Okay. Take your time, take your time. If you see me when I do that, nothing comes off my brush, I have to reload. So I just go back down and I just add more paint to the brush and I continue. Now again, you want to try to mimic, if you're unsure, try to mimic what I'm doing. Where I paint where I paint. Okay, look at that. And then don't forget, if you've got questions, if you've got something that you feel needs a little extra explanation, a little more detail, let me know. I'm more than happy to help out. Again, this is a very beginner-friendly session. And for those of you that have been painting for a while, it's always good to slow down, or go back to some of the basics. It's always good to revisit. Sometimes you'll go back to something, you'll go, oh my gosh, I remember that. I hadn't been using that technique, or I'd forgotten about that. Okay, it's just mixing more of the same color. We're going to come over to the other palm tree now. Whoops. Going to go like that, and maybe a little bit here towards the bottom edge. Now I want this palm tree here to be in the front. This one's in the back. So when I brought this down, I stopped right at the edge of this one. Okay, maybe here in the center, I'll kind of do this. I'll do the same thing over here. Just a little, just build up the inside of that a bit. Almost looks like I've got some coconuts in there. So Angie, that's a great question, but the answer is in a simple yes or no. You want to overlap some of the original green lines in some spots, and then in other parts, you paint in between. It's just kind of random, but that variation is what makes it look a little bit natural. Okay, so you don't want to go and paint over every single green line that you had at the beginning, right when we did the first. So here, as I'm going through here, I'm not going through and painting on every. So let me give you a close-up. Good question, though. Okay, again, just to reiterate, if something doesn't make sense, please ask me to further explain. I've got no problem whatsoever. So here on this, we're going to go here. I'm going to try to do this holding the canvas as I'm doing this. Okay. So sometimes it's between, sometimes it's right on top. Sometimes there's little gaps. Okay, it just depends. I want a little bit of that green coming through. Give me 1 second, everybody. I'll lower my volume here. I've got my phone turned off. What happened to my phone here? Did it die on me? Give me a second, everyone. I want to get my music back up. Also, if you heard a little girl in the background, the monitor in my little girl's room is on, and she's in there. Let me turn that off. I could hear her kind of screeching at something. She must be having a good time, whatever it is. All right, back to the music. A little too loud there. Let me lower that. But anyhow, again, just play with it a little bit. You overlap a little bit here, overlap a little bit there, but not on everything. You want some of that original green peeking through here and there. Okay. Again, you're going to learn as much by simply watching what I'm doing and trying to mimic as you will from listening. Okay, some of it's a combination of both. But if you're good at observing, you often don't even have to really listen to the instruction, obviously, but it's helpful if you do both. Here I'm just mixing a little bit of you know what, I apologize. I jumped a step. I got a little bit, jumped ahead a little bit. Back to this color here. I don't want to start jumping in between steps and then going back. We're going to finish with this step first. So right in here a little bit. Here I'll just pick a few spots. So you want to do a combination of both. And I know some people are more visual. Some people are a little bit more, you're better at auditory instruction. So just kind of find that happy medium if you can. Okay. So here's what I've got so far. And right now, these are just 2 layers of paint. We started with that original green. then I added in that dark throughout. Okay, not on every single part. Look what I've got. I've got some areas that don't have any. Again, we're building up the shadowed parts right now, the shadow areas, the low lights. You got it, Sherry. Yeah, for sure. Look for that video. I might edit it to make it a little bit shorter to remove the fluff, but we'll see. We'll see how that works. But definitely, I'll be more than happy to share that. Hey, Rebecca, sounds good. Both sessions yesterday and today's. Yesterday was part 1. Today's part 2. Both were recorded. Okay, let me get a little bit more paint on my plate, and then we're going to go ahead and do the next step, which is to go a little bit darker now. Make the darkest darks on these palm trees. As I mentioned, this is likely the most difficult part of the painting for most of us. Okay, so don't stress out. If you're struggling a little bit, that's okay. So I'm taking some black now, a little bit of the green. And I'm going to take a bit of my burnt sienna, again, the brown, just throw it in there. But it is a much darker version of what's on the canvas now. Okay? This is the darkest darks. Hi, Jennifer. Good. So here we go. Again, I mixed a much darker, maybe not much darker color, but a darker version of what we were just working with. Brown, black, and green. Okay, we're going to go through and just pick. Again, we're going to be selective. I'm going to go right in here. I'm going to paint over most of what I've got, leaving little gaps here and there. Okay, now I'm going to move over here. And maybe I go a little bit out this way. Okay, and there. I'm going to try and hold this up and do this at the same time. Notice what's happening. As I'm adding this next color, we're starting to get more depth in the painting because you're getting a variation of these colors layered on top of each other, and that creates depth. Okay. Again, this is the darkest part of the painting. This part right in here, the darkest part of the palm trees. Okay. Take a look. I don't need much more than that. Okay, now I'm going to go back over to this palm tree. Continue with the same color. Again, I'm creating the darkest parts. I dab a little in the center. Come over this way. Dip my brush in my water a little bit. Bring that water over. Just going to make it flow a bit better. Okay, and that one didn't need too many touches. Now, if I was to leave the palm trees like that, they look like palm trees. Okay. However, we're going to flesh them out a little bit more. Okay, so take a moment to kind of catch up with that. I'm going to clean my brush a little bit. Still going to be using the same brush. And so then the next step is going to be adding another version of lighter green, of the lighter green. It's going to be a little darker than this in the original, but adding another version of green and overlapping a little bit. Eventually, probably in the next couple of steps, we're going to add some yellow highlights in there, yellowish highlights to finish everything off. Okay, so we're getting there. We are getting there. Nice and slow, everybody. Nice and easy. If you're stressing a little bit, just try to relax. Okay, it's just practice. There's nothing too serious about this. You can always come back and do it again. Okay? And once again, cheers to all of you that are joining me today. Okay. Back to the dark green, the hooker's green. I'm going to bring this right over here. Let's see, I need some yellow to mix into it. So let's put a little more yellow on my palette. Okay, right there. So this color is going to be a little bit darker than the original color that we started with. Just a bit. Okay, now I'm going to come in here with this and I'm going to go whoops, a little far on that one. That still works. Maybe there. Okay, maybe I'll come in here. Overlapping some parts, creating new foliage in other areas. It just kind of depends. Okay, over on this one. Again, this color is probably just a little darker than the original color that we used. So it's green and yellow. It's green and yellow, but it's more of a green color. And again, watch what I do. I'm not covering every single part of the original base painting, or the original layer. I'm using this color to offset what's on that canvas already, creating more depth by introducing another color. Okay, I'm going to take more yellow now. I'm going to mix it right over here to create a really light green. It's almost yellow. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take it, look at the original, I've got some areas that are really light. Perhaps where the sun is kissing the palm trees a little bit more, or they're less discolored, or they're discolored. Don't know whichever way you want to look at it as. But for example, right here, we got maybe a little highlight there. I'm just going through and picking little areas where the sun's peeking through. Okay, now I'm going to go and do the one back here. You notice that I'm not adding this color, with maybe a couple of exceptions, to the dark areas. Okay, those dark areas, that's where the shadows are. And then mainly I'm adding it to the tips of my little points, the tips of the foliage, the outer parts. Again, I said with few exceptions, right? I'm adding any of this to the dark parts. Okay, and then we'll take a little step back, look at it from a distance. I do see some areas that I can make some touch-ups. So right here, I've got this kind of a shadow, like a light shadow area that's missing over here. I can include that, and then maybe a little bit on that one too, over here. But for the most part, that's still pretty good. I like those. I like those palm trees. They're looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. Okay, so work on that for a little bit. Again, everyone, if you've got questions, comments, you need clarification on something, let me know. More than happy to let you know in a little more detail what needs to be done. Okay, or a little more detail, explain the process better. Angie says, I messed up on my palm leaves. We've got too many. Ouch. It's okay, Angie. Don't stress about it. Do your best, but mainly enjoy the process. Okay. Yep, Hooker's green is a darker green. That's correct. More of a, looks like a forest-ish green. All right. So, last little step here is, I just kind of looked at it, and I'm going to make some final little touches, little touch-ups. Little green, I just need a few little shadows. I'm going to take a little bit of green, mix it. Whoops, right in here. I mix too much of the brown. We'll raise it back up with some yellow. We don't want it too dark. And then I'm just going to come in here and go. See there. Maybe there. And this is a very light low light. Okay. All right. I think that's it. That'll do it for those palm trees. And I was about to dip my brush in my drink. What's next? Really quickly, since I've got these colors on my palette, I'm going to grab a bit of my green and my yellow, mix them up. Again, kind of an in-betweenish color. Maybe we'll go a little lighter. My little island off in the distance. Using my number 2 little brush still and just dabbing. Okay. Okay. Before I go back to that and add some shadows, I am going to switch brushes. Gonna go to my 1/2-inch flat brush. I'm going to grab some green, some yellow, more green. I'm going to grab some water. I'm going to dip my brush right in that water. I'll do that a couple of times. Third time. Okay, nice kind of medium green. Not too dark, not too bright. I'm going to come down in here. Start dabbing. Watch what I'm doing with that brush. I'm dabbing. Now we're going to need some layering here to build this up. All right. We'll come back to that. Come over here and do the same thing. Same color as the island. I just made more of this. It's a green and yellow combination. Okay. Same colors as what's on the island. Just a little darker. So more green. Okay. And again, we'll build this up here in a bit. Once it dries, we'll come back to it. What I'm going to do next, and I'll give it about a minute, I'm going to add these little tiny light lines up alongside the trunk of my palm trees. Okay? I'm just going to go up, little tiny light lines. So I hope you're all having a little fun today with part 2. If if you're just watching, again, part 1 was yesterday. It was recorded and it is available for you to check out at your convenience. Also, don't forget to join the Painting with Jesse email list. It is not in the description, or it might be. Might be in the description of the video. It just depends on how much of the original setup I have access to right now. That Facebook is being a little weird. I'll post the link on the main Painting with Jesse page for those of you that aren't on there, or that for those of you that have not joined yet. I always send out notifications letting people when I'm going to go live, things like that, and then I do free. I send out stencils and things like that for some of the events that I do. Okay, a little bit of white now. I'm going to take a little tiny bit of my brown here. Make a really light version of it. I'm also going to add a touch of yellow. So yellow, brown, a little bit of white. See if that's enough. What I'm going to do using my little number 2 flat brush, I press down on both sides. What I'm trying to do is make this really flat so it's nice and skinny at the edge. So both sides, I just flip it, flip, flip. And I'm going to go like this. You could also take a little round brush if you have one, or a little pointy brush if it works better for you. I'm actually concentrating these lines a little over to the right a bit. Okay. So slight bit over to the right. Hold on a second. All right. Sounds good, Angie. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, what happened? I just lost something here. Give me a second, everybody. Not sure why I lost my... Flip that. That was weird. Good thing I was on StreamYard when I saw it happen. For some reason, the cameras flipped, and I saw it happen. I saw when it happened. That was strange. Okay. So, back to my island. I've got this green here that I used for the foliage in here. Okay, I'm going to grab a little bit of that. It's still wet. I'm going to bring it over and take and add a little bit of black to it. So again, black and some green to make some really dark green. Good idea, Angie. Good idea. Okay, I'm going to take this now and I'm going to just dab here, especially towards the base of my little island in the distance. Again, I'm dabbing, everybody. Dab, dab. Allowing some of the original color to pop through. Okay, now it's a little dark, so maybe I'm going to go a little higher now. I'm going to raise the value a little bit. So I'll grab a little bit of the yellow and bring it over, along with that green, just a bit. For variation, and I'm going to go, and I'm using different parts of the brush. See you later, Angie. Have fun. I'm not sure why my music is stopping here. Having all sorts of strange glitches today. So again, dab, dab, dab. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to grab a touch of yellow and maybe up towards the top edges a bit, let it blend in. Okay, there's my little island off in the distance. Okay, back to that foliage. We're almost there, everybody. We're almost there. Don't give up now. Okay, even if you have to come back to it, don't give up. Complete the piece. If you're struggling, if you're frustrated, please remember we are our own worst critics, our own biggest critics. Okay, we criticize ourselves more than anybody else. So if you're looking at it going, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Don't stress, just let it be. If you need to step away for a little while and come back to it, by a little while I mean a day or a few hours or whatever, please do so. Come on back to it though. Okay, just mixing in some more yellow with this dark green. I'm going to come in here and at the base, once again, dab, dab, dab. It's going to make it quite a bit darker. I'm not going to go all the way to the top. I'm layering more towards the bottom. Okay. Angie says one of my trees has more branches than the other. Both lopsided. It's okay, Angie. Don't worry about it too much. Don't be so hard on yourself. Okay, the other thing is palm trees can have more branches than another palm tree, right? They're not all the same. Okay, a little bit of yellow in here. A little more yellow. Going to lighten it up quite a bit more. And Just going to be a little selective now. I'm going to add some of this here and there, but mostly towards the top. Using my finger to blend things out a bit. We're going to come over here and do the same. Okay, just dabbing, moving things around. If it's too intense, just blend it out a little bit. Angie says, when's the next painting going to be? Don't know yet, Angie. Maybe a couple of weeks. Trying to see what it is that's good for the season. It's going to be another workshop, though. Okay. We're going to let that dry just a little bit. I'm going to clean this brush using my 1/2-inch flat brush still. Okay, let's see. A little bit of white. It's pretty dried. Like I said, folks, it's pretty warm in my studio, so things are drying pretty fast. A little bit of my burnt sienna. Can I get some of that from here? Do I need to pour some out? I got a little bit. A little smidge of yellow too. Oops, too much. That time I got way more than what I want. It's all right. Okay, I'm going to take some of this right below. A little bit of a shadow. Just a slight bit. Gives the painting a bit more depth. And then one last little touch. Just grab some green there. Just the green, and I'm going to especially towards the base, towards the bottom. Okay. That's it. Let's add a few tiny flowers and we are good to go. Oh, birds. We need birds too. Birds are coming. Put a little red on my palette. Okay, about to grab a little bit of pink. Okay, I'm going to use the back of my brush. Scoop up a little bit of red, and I'm going to go depending on how much paint I've got on the handle and how much pressure I apply, I can make some really tiny little dots. I can make a variety of different sized dots. Okay, little pink ones now. So this is my number 2 brush, and number 2 little flat brush. So it's the handle's relatively small. Okay. How's everybody doing? Don't forget to give my video a like today. Give our little session a like. Okay, help the Facebook algorithm pick it up and spread it to other people. You can also share it. Share it to your timeline if you'd like. So let me give you guys a little close-up of my birds, of the original. Very tiny little things off in the distance. For something like this, usually small round liner brush, a little tiny brush is all you need. But I'm going to show you that you can use a small little flat brush like this one, it's number 2, to make birds like that. Just birds in silhouette. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of the light blue that's in the background. So I don't have any of that left, so I'm going to mix it. A little bit of that light blue is going to get mixed in with some black. The reason why I'm doing that is I don't want the birds to be just black. Otherwise, the contrast can be too much. So I'll make a little bit of light blue. We don't need much. Color kind of similar to what's already in that background. Now I'm going to grab some black. I'll bring that over. For all intents and purposes, the birds are still going to look black against the background. But in reality, mixing in the background color with the black paint subdues the intensity and also helps the birds fall back into the background. I'm also going to take some water now. I just dip my brush in that water and bring it over. That water is going to help the paint stick to the canvas. I'm barely going to touch the canvas with this. Now, if it helps you, you can practice this on a plate, on a piece of paper before you go to your actual canvas, okay? The practice part of it is very important. Here's what I'm going to do. So taking my brush and I'm pressing down on both sides of that brush. So here's one little bird. I'm going to try and do it up close. I'm going to make it a little larger than what I planned on doing it originally, just so it's easier for you to see. So there's the center of my little bird. You can almost look at that as the body, okay? With my flat brush, I'm going to dab, okay? Okay, and then dab again. There's a little bird in silhouette. Real easy, nothing fancy, nothing crazy. How about another one? This one's going to have the wings pointing down. I'm using the corner of my brush in this case. Move your brush around a little bit. Experiment with it a little bit. See what works better for you. Okay, here we go. There's another little bird. Okay, again, nothing fancy, nothing crazy to this. Another one. The body. There's another one. Okay. So that's what we're going to do over here. Now I'm going to try to make them a lot smaller. But I wanted to give you guys a close-up so you could see what it was that I'm intending to do on my palette in smaller version. Okay, so here we go. Okay, there's my body, the body of my first bird. There's one bird. It's a really light touch, and it's the water that makes the difference. That makes this easier. There's another one. Okay, let's see. Maybe another one here. Look at that one. Way back. Let's see. Sounds good, Carolyn. Fantastic. There we go. There's another one. So all I'm doing is lightly dabbing. You're not seeing me pull too much. I'm just lightly dabbing. So watch again. Center. I'm going to come over to the side. Okay, and there's a bird. We're seeing these birds from quite a distance. They don't need any detail. They're just little birds in silhouette. One more. Let's see. Okay. And then just for fun, kind of like on the original, lots of water in here. Just dipping my brush in that water. The more water I have in here, the more it thins out the paint, but also the less pressure I have to apply to the canvas. Little bird way off in the distance. I'll give you guys a close-up. Tiny little thing. There's another one. And maybe these are more like specks. Oh, that one's not quite working out as well, but it's okay. It still works. Okay, little tiny thing off in the distance. There's a little tiny speck. Not sure you guys can see that one. And I did one more over here. Last thing we want to do, besides maybe some touch-ups, like for example, I can add more of a highlight here in the center of my sand, and maybe I'll do that. Just gonna add a bit of white to my plate, tiny bit of the burnt sienna, some yellow, the colors of my sand, right? The three colors that I mixed for the sand. And a little bit of water. So I dip my brush in that water. I'm still using my 1/2-inch flat brush. Mixing quite a bit of the white in there. Smidge of my burnt sienna. Tiny bit of yellow. More white. It's pretty watered down. And then I'm going to come in here. Now, yesterday I'd mentioned that maybe I would do some touch-ups to the water. Doesn't really need it. I like what I've got. So I'm adding this highlight mainly down here in the area where the little depression kind of is. It kind of drops a bit and then levels off. Maybe over here a bit. Okay. Last thing would be to sign the piece. Am I too close? Oh my goodness, I just did all that really close. I apologize about that. I forgot I pulled the painting forward. Let me do that again. So here's what I did, just to demonstrate. I came in here with this color. Might as well just add a little bit more in here. Came in here. Just a bit here and there. Okay, I just want this area in here, this little depression, to be a little bit lighter. But I didn't cover everything. Just kind of dabbing, creating highlights. Okay, kind of like that. So again, the water doesn't really need any adjustments. I like what I've got in that water. Okay, and that, my friends, completes our session. Now, to sign the piece, I do want a small brush, so give me a second while I grab a little liner brush. Got to move my light out of the way here. So again, these little round brushes are good for detail work. You could have made the birds with this, for example. You can also use these to sign. This is a number, no, it's a big one, number 6 round brush. I think it looks more like a number 3 or number 4, but what's important is that the point gets really skinny. Okay, so a little bit of water. I'm going to sign my piece in red. Okay, so a little red. A little bit of water. We spin the brush up against the plate, making that point even skinnier and pointier. And then we're going to go right here. Can you guys see what I'm doing? Yes. Okay. My last name, Mendeville. Okay. There we go, folks. Ta-da. Pretty basic, pretty simple. The things that you want to understand is that even a painting like this, which is relatively straightforward, requires layering to create those subtle and not so subtle depths within, whether it's up in here within your palm tree or your water, your clouds. There's a variety of colors and hues, even if they kind of just are slightly different. It's that combination of overlapping those colors that starts to flesh out a piece. Okay, so practice. If you're not happy with the way your piece turned out, that's okay. Don't stress about it. Understand that even the pieces that you don't feel are successful, you're going to learn from those. You need those difficult sessions that push you so that your brain expands, your synapses, your connections, your wiring in your brain start to make connections that then on further sessions or with more practice start to make it easier to get those concepts. But it's about practice, practice, practice. If you're having trouble with your palm trees, then you go and just practice your palm trees. You don't have to go and paint a whole background and everything to work on palm trees. You can work on palm trees right on a paper plate, even on a paper plate, or canvas paper, mixed media paper. Get yourself a mixed media pad. And I usually recommend the 119-pound weight paper or higher, so it doesn't warp too much on you. And you practice on that so you get your palm trees. You can go back to this video when you want and go, all right, Jesse, let's get to the part where the palm trees are. Let's do those again. Or let's get to the part where the clouds are. Let's work on those clouds. Okay. This video is going to stay up on the Painting with Jesse page indefinitely. At least that's the plan for it now. So you can go back to it as many times as you want and paint again. Okay. So I'll be back doing another workshop here in a couple of weeks on the Painting with Jesse page. Not sure what it's going to be yet. But it's going to be something maybe a little easier than this. I don't plan on making it harder than this one. It'll be likely easier, if not as easy or as difficult, depending on what you feel about it, as this one. Okay, so be on the lookout. Again, if you haven't joined the Painting with Jesse email list, I'll post a link to it on the main Painting with Jesse page. And get on the list, and that way you don't miss out on any of the fun stuff that we do here. Okay? All right, everybody. Last thing, please share your paintings with me if you want to, either post the pictures here to the discussion, the comment section, or you can also message them to me directly on Painting with Jesse. Just go to your messenger or go to Painting with Jesse, message, and then add the picture to your message, send it over, let me know what you thought. Okay? All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope you enjoyed it. And I look forward to painting with you again very soon. All right? Bye-bye. You got it, Carolyn. Let's see real quickly on some of the comments. Crystal says, my palm trees need help, but I'm doing good. Good. Fantastic, Crystal. That's the attitude. That's how you want to approach this. Even if you're, it's not coming out the way you want. That's okay. Have fun with it. Relax and try it again. You got it, Anne-Marie. Fantastic. You got it, Alice. Can't wait to see what you painted, Alice, when you share it in the group. Okay. I can't say you had an amazing start yesterday, so can't wait to see how you ended up finishing. You got it, June. All right, everybody. Thank you. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.